Okay, let's have a look at this beautiful setup. So in my mind, this is one of the most beautiful setups so far. So this is going to be our test to see whether we go on to color or not. So let's have a look here. So let's look at that dark, look at this beautiful purple, the design on there. Do you guys see how beautiful all that is? That is gorgeous. So if you see that, that's wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. Do not do that. That is the sirens of the setup seducing you. So what are we supposed to look at? Well, let's review something that we covered a few lessons ago. And all of this is our action. Our action, the action for our scene. And then down here and back here is before the action and after the action. Right? So hopefully I don't have to tell you that all the excitement happens before and after, in the action. And how do we say action? Well, we've got our highlight, which is 1, right? 2 is our light. 3 is, let's just call it non-action right now. But it's also known as our background or air. And when I say background, I mean aesthetic background, not picture plane background. And then 4 are our darks. And we're including shadows in that and grays. So let me ask you a question. What is this? What is that? And it's a multiple choice question, and flower is not one of the choices. The choice is the first value, our second value, our third value, or our fourth value. Do you understand what I'm getting at here? You have to quit seeing objects. You have to, or your painting's going to fail. And instead, you have to interpret that scene and translate it into 4 values. Okay. With that being said, number 2 light and number 4 dark make up our action or our foreground as opposed to our background. Okay, if you're nice and confused right now, that's okay. So let's clear this off. Okay, and then start a new layer. So back to our flower then. What is our flower? Well, remember the things we learned to draw and paint? Do you remember our teacup? And that's what our teacup is. right? And on this side, all of this is shadow as well as that, right? So when I ask you what this is, you have to be able to figure out that that's shadow, that is shadow. This grape is dark. This shadow is dark. In other words, all of those are our number 4 or dark, right? Because that's our language. And then that would continue with these grapes right here. These are darks. And if we want this dark here to show up, then this has to be different or weaker or a number 3 value. Okay, is everybody catching on to that? I really need to know whether you understand this or not, because we can't go into color if we don't understand this. If we go into color before comprehending this, it's just going to be a disaster. Okay, so then what do we have? Well, our pair, let's just go to our dark. First of all, our background then is going to be our mid value, right? Or the in-between. And so that means all of this is going to be our in-between value, right? This is before the action. That's our in-between value. This is after the action. That's our in-between value. Okay, so when I start, I'll start on my canvas with a number 4 value. And then I find, let's see, so we're going to do this number 4 value. Well, I know it's a little hard to see. So let's start on the stem. We're going to start right up here. So number 4 value, number 4 value, number 4 value. And then guess what? How is number 4 value? I don't care that it's white. I care if it's in shadow, if it's in light, if it's part of the action, or if it's part of the background. Our shadow, right? Shadow. I'm calling it shadow, but it's our dark, right? Our dark through the grapes. Dark, dark. Does everybody understand that? So that is simply a number 4 value. And then what happens is that shape, so here's our pair, and then there's our first there's our second flower. You see that? So then these abstract shapes are what determine whether the painting is interesting or not. Okay? If I need to hear from everybody, and I need to hear whether you understand this or you don't. If you don't understand it, it's okay. There's nothing to be embarrassed about or shy. But this is imperative before we go forward. Okay? Is knowing where these values are and what they do. So to illustrate that point, we're going to do one more thing here really quick. Or maybe even not so quick, who knows. So let's take all of this away. Actually here, we can begin to see, so that would be this, oops, where are we at? Right here? Okay, there we go. So let's turn to red so you can see what I'm doing. So there's the stem, but I'm going to paint it in black and dark. There's the shadow of the pear. I'm painting it dark. The shadow of the pear goes into the shadow of the flower, goes into the shadow under the pear, and then the grapes, again, this is black. I'm doing it in red so you see. And then that hooks up with that shadow. There was a grape here, right? And then here's the shadow of the kind of the bud going on. So this red shape, the shadow shape, is one of the fundamental things that determine whether this painting is interesting or not. It has nothing to do with the subject matter. Nothing at all. And so don't let that subject matter confuse you. Okay. So let's review then. Come down here. So here's our dark. So if we're to have form, we know how to get it. So there's the base of our pear right there. Okay, and then it comes up, goes like that, and then the stem goes like that. Do you see? So that is the shape that you're looking for. And then that flower, what you want to do with the flower is you want to put it so that its shadow shape augments the shadow shape of the pear. And then you're going to place that second shadow on the second flower. Again, design that. And then how are we going to design these grapes? Right? If we go just straight up, that's boring, but can we go up and down, maybe up? So you are literally, I know what that word means, literally paint the number 4 value, not objects. Or colors. Okay, so this is huge right here. Unless we're all doing this activity, we're not communicating. We're talking about two different things. So let me say it again. The only thing you can paint is paint. You can't paint a flower. You can't paint a pear. You can't paint a beautiful tapestry. But you can paint a number 4 value. You can design that number 4 value. You can paint a number 2 value. You can design that number 2 value to work with the number 4 value. And then our number 3 value supports those things and bring them forward. So, if we were to simply, let's go to completely neutral over here, then go up here to our light, then the light of the pear is going to be whatever it is. And then how is that going to come into these flowers? And then this flower might come over here. I'm not looking at the thing, so if I'm getting them a little bit wrong, excuse me. And then that can go from the highlight to the highlight, or the stems could be dark or light. Right? And then if there's light on the table, if that's part of it. But do not let the objects and the colors confuse you. What is your action? And then your action is made up of your light value and your dark value. And then your non-action, or before the scene and after the scene, well, we've already got that value there, right? We've got to put that there so that our light and our dark show up. Does that make sense? Okay, so I know I sounded a little bit stern today. It's only because this is not easy to do. It's a simple mental switch, or switching the perspective from which you look from. And unless you do it, you are dead in the water. And most of my time is just trying to convince people that this is what they're looking for. And when they can't accept it, I tell them one or two things that'll make their painting look a little better. But nothing happens. There's no understanding there. Okay, so I need to hear from everybody whether you understood this concept, and I need to see everybody do this painting and show me that they understand this concept. So one, please reply to the email with I get it or I don't get it. And then two, go do this assignment and either let me see it at the next class or email it and let me see so I can see if we're on the right track. Because if we don't get this, we can't go to color. Okay, because color is just a lot more difficult. And the whole reason that we spent this many months going this way is to try to get this idea in your head. That we are painting and designing values. Right? 4 values. We have paint consistency and we have edges. That is your subject matter. Your subject matter is 4 values, your paint consistency, and your paint quality. So think and work in those terms. Okay? Once you make this switch, painting is so much easier and so much more enjoyable. So for this one painting, do it my way and see what happens with values. And be sensitive about how you put those values down. Just because you're painting a dark doesn't mean you can be a clod about it or throw it on there. Well, you told me to put it dark. Yeah, we'll do it nice. You know, if somebody asks you to babysit, you don't tie the kid up and throw him in the closet. Well, you told me to watch the kid. No, you still have to be sensitive. It's just what you're being sensitive to. Okay, well, give it your best shot. Sit down and scratch your head and make sure you understand this. If we don't understand this, there's no moving forward. Okay, I hope everybody has a good week, and I look forward to seeing what you bring to me.